Welcome to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast, your guide to future tech trends and innovation in a language you understand. Now, over to your host, Neil Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. Now, one of the things I love about recording this show every day is exploring areas that you don't automatically associate with technology and learn how it's actually being transformed by tech without us even realising it. For example, do you ever think about the logistics around the supply chain that moves around all those products that we rely on all around the world? Probably not. Why would you? Because we are living in a world of instant gratification where we just click a button once and Amazon driver or somebody will bring it straight to our door. But behind all the scenes, this is an incredibly complex industry and something that is being transformed by technology. For example, GlobalTranz Enterprises is a leading technology and third-party logistics solutions company that is providing award-winning transportation management systems, products to shippers, logistics service providers, and really making a difference with their logistics software and services market in innovative technology that ultimately optimises the efficiency of freight movement and actually matches shipper demand and carrier capacity in real time. So that sounded to me like I needed to learn a little bit more about this industry and how it's actually being transformed by technology. So buckle up and hold on tight as I beam your ears all the way to Phoenix so we can speak with Greg Carter, the CTO at GlobalTranz Enterprises, not only about the way that they're leveraging technology, but also how it has helped them evolve as a business too. So a massive warm welcome to the show, Greg. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Sure. I'm Greg Carter. I'm the Chief Technology Officer at GlobalTranz, or GTZ as we like to call it. And GlobalTranz is a enterprise software and logistics services provider. So basically we move stuff. And in my particular department, we're responsible for delivering our transportation management product, which is really at the heart of everything we do at GTZ. In our transportation management product, our transportation management product's used by a very large network of logistical services providers, freight brokerages, and our own brokerage. So we move well over 10,000 shipments or movements, as we call them, a day. And in particular, my team is the product development, product management, and product marketing for our TMS platform, which is called GTZ Connect.
So on this Daily Tech podcast, I explore industries that you don't automatically associate with technology and can try to highlight how technology is transforming that industry. So when I first came across your tagline, introducing the next generation transportation management system, I simply had to get you on the show today. So can you help set the scene and tell me a little about the kind of problems that this very traditional and essential industry is going through at the moment?
Well, you really hit it on the head as far as essential goes, because no nation can exist without logistics, and whether it's delivering goods and parcels on a bicycle all the way to super tankers delivering fuel or other required goods, logistics is at the heart of every nation's health, their wealth, and their well-being. So logistics is just really essential, and it's evolved, and it's evolved over time from a super simplistic environment where people moving goods from A to B would usually look up on a chalkboard at a truck stop and see who needs something moved and what is and where trucks will be. So, or in that back then, it could have even been wagons. All of that has evolved and been eclipsed by the electronic replacement of that original chalkboard. So the movement of goods is the greatest intersection of high-tech and no-tech that I see today. And what's really changed the market is a combination of electronic load boards, electronic tracking systems, the instrumentation of trucks, ships, planes, people, and all of that has given way to a system that used to be really paper-based and used to be really driven by person power versus digital systems the whole network, the whole industry has changed in the last, I would say, 20 to 30 years. And that's not totally weird, in comparison to other industries, but given where the freight industry came from to where it is today is a dramatic shift. And what we at GlobalTranz are looking to do is to continue and accelerate that shift from relying on people and manual processes to using things like AI, artificial intelligence, and machine learning to build a digital persona of drivers, of equipment, of different pieces in the supply chain, and to be able to model behavior and start to predict where a truck's going. How does a driver like to behave? So we're at the beginning of a whole new era of digitalization of the different processes around logistics.
It sounds like it's an incredibly exciting time for you guys at the moment, because the scale of change is just phenomenal, especially when you're talking about over road, sea, rail, and air. So using this technology and going from no tech to big tech, what kind of problems are you solving differently with GlobalTranz, or what's your different approach that you're taking?
Well, one of the big shifts we made with our latest update to our platform, GTZ Connect 2, is that we're looking at the entire life cycle of a movement. And that's a big shift when you look at everything that's involved in moving, let's say, a raw good to a manufacturer, to then that manufactured good, maybe it goes to another manufacturer and it's built into an even larger system. Think of a car. Starts out with parts, then an engine, then a finished product. We're looking at all the movements that occur. So picking up the goods in China, taking them to a dock, getting them through customs, getting them on a ship, getting that ship into Long Beach into a customs warehouse, etc., all the way down. And by looking at every movement discretely and then stitching them all together, even if we're not involved in it, we're able to give our customers a really new level of visibility into what's coming, what's going, and how they can adjust and adapt. And so if you were a manufacturer and you had access to GTZ Connect, you could do a lot more upfront planning about how you managed your human capital, how you managed your assembly line, how you did scheduling. And so it's kind of a ripple effect forward that the end customer, all the way down to someone going and clicking in Amazon, can see and get real-time information, not just about goods that are in stock, but goods that are coming down the road.
And from the technology point of view, can you tell me a little bit more about the technology at GTZ and how you actually proudly showcase freight that is driven by technology?
Sure. So I think the biggest thing we've done is allow input from any number of devices, of things in the supply chain to tell us where goods are scheduled to go, where goods are going, where they are, when they got there. And along the way, also collect information about the conditions, with the temperature, anything that needs to be controlled to be used somewhere in the supply chain. So a good example would be the movement of protein products like turkeys and hams. Those shipments and movements of those products require some pretty precise controls about temperature and handling. And so one of the things GTZ Connect can do is take input from this emerging Internet of Things to automatically log the temperature at different points within the movement of a protein product. So we don't really care what the input is or what the device that's sending it. We can take that input. We'll write a business rule in the product to adapt that business rule to how we view movements. And now the customer has a whole new set of intelligence into the condition of their goods at different points in the supply chain. Now, if you think about in the course of another commodity like an engine or some other aircraft part, that might include different steps where a quality inspection would take place. So in the movement of aircraft parts, you regularly inspect the part at different points in the supply chain. And we don't really care what you're inspecting for. We just know that we can set up an event that says you have to inspect it at this point, and this point, and this point, and then we'll gather the results of the inspection, and again, present it to you in that control tower view. So by kind of genericizing the movement of goods because of the power, the compute power available today, the near unlimited storage available today, the Internet of Things, and the kind of ubiquity of access to different clouds, the entire thing can all be brought together in a very meaningful way, and we can turn all those little discrete bits of data into actionable information.
And I love your tagline, powered by technology, driven by people. As for me, people should always be at the heart of any solution, especially a tech solution too. But in this particular industry, what stands out for me is it's run by deskless workers that are not traditional office guys sat at a computer all day. So have you faced any resistance to technology, and how do you deal with that kind of culture change?
I would say 4 or 5 years ago, all of these companies that wanted to take over your phone, and I'm being a bit melodramatic there, but wanted you to install an app or give up your phone number, or phone companies that reluctantly sold ping data to different track and trace and positioning systems. The drivers, the people on the dock, they were a lot more reluctant to use those technologies. And we've really seen in the past 4 or 5 years a huge shift in the ability for a vendor like GTZ to convince a driver, a dispatcher, a carrier to use an app that will allow us to collect information, allow a driver to bid on a load. So there's been a huge shift, and I don't know if it's a generational thing, but we definitely see the adoption and the openness of drivers and other people in the supply chain to adopt technology. The other thing that's made a huge difference is that companies like GTZ, in our platform, we have an adaptive design. And so you may not have a desktop computer or even a laptop, but you very likely have a tablet or some other communication device. And with GTZ Connect 2, we spend a lot of time figuring out from different personas what information you need to do your work. And our product will adapt to the particular device. So if you're using basically one of those desktop replacement iPads or large tablets like a Surface or something, the user interface will adjust depending on the screen real estate available to it. And we didn't just make it a blind thing, it just blindly adjusts. It actually figures out who you are, the system knows what role you're playing, and the UI will adjust based on your role. So if you are a carrier or a driver and you're using a tablet or a phone, we'll give you the really most important things you want to do. Indicate pickup, accept a job, notify of drop-off, take a snap of the goods for proof of delivery. Whereas if you are a broker or a logistics services provider, we'll give you the things that are important to manage the overall flow of freight through your network. And those are two very different functions, and they require very different information and ability to act.
So just for anybody listening anywhere in the world that are hearing about GlobalTranz for the first time, do you have any use cases or feedback stories of where businesses were before they implemented your technology and then what it looked like afterward, just to help them visualize the kind of difference that it's making?
I can give some general examples or general cases. So we have a large manufacturing firm that produces both industrial goods as well as components in the construction industry, basically bathroom fittings. And before, they had a massive amount of paperwork for each production run that was first dealing with scheduling movements, then dealing with actually making them happen, and then the follow-up, and then a lot of manual work correlating all that data to their budgeting and spend management systems inside their ERP. Because of the way we've approached TMS, the Transportation Management System market, we spend a lot of time investing in APIs. So we have a general principle that anything you can do through the user interface, you should be able to do through an API in an automated fashion. what that allowed us to do is to go to this manufacturing customer and say, hey, we don't want to have your people having to deal with paper. We can automate it end to end. And not only can we automate it, we can start to detect orders that are going to be made for movements before the goods are even totally finished. Because we can integrate with your order management system, the other parts of your supply chain. And when we do that, we can have either through automated functions or a broker start to find trucks, start to find capacity so that we can negotiate better rates, we can lock in that capacity, and you get a guaranteed pickup at a really good price. That then rolls forward to our ability to integrate customer data into our control tower. So now we can use your ERP or your budgeting system. We can integrate all this data under our control tower, again, because we tried to make everything as open as possible. We didn't simply focus on our products and our ecosystem. Our ecosystem is much bigger. So now this customer can do really sophisticated real-time tracking of transportation spend to budget, as well as some really cool forecasting. If we do an extra production run ahead of schedule, how is that going to affect our quarterly spend? So we've kind of taken a lot of the principles from true enterprise software about openness, APIs, deep integration, and kind of brought transportation management systems much further forward in that environment.
Now, GlobalTranz has also a commitment to pioneering technology that transforms the entire logistics industry. So do you have any examples or partnerships that illustrate how you're doing just that?
Sure. A great example is our quest to find a really good embeddable search engine. And when we went and looked at the market, you have a lot of products that have been kind of mainstays in the supply chain market, but all of them were either clunky or really sophisticated or really required a lot of expertise in that product and in the underlying database. We didn't want that. We wanted someone who was managing freight at a small to mid-sized business to be able to write a custom report without having to know a database language or a proprietary reporting language. And we partnered with ThoughtSpot, who is a Gartner Magic Quadrant leader in the analytics market, and came up with a really powerful solution where we use their advanced natural language processing capability to put the hands of reporting and building dashboards and alerting in the hands of people that actually know the business, and not make it something where you stuff a request for a report or a change in a queue and then wait for IT to follow up weeks, months, days later. We want you to be able to do that using the skills you have right there on the spot, and then be able to get analytics that help you make decisions every day.
So as CTO, is there any technology out there that particularly excites you at the moment, along with any industry trends or expert insights that you can share with us today?
Well, if we're going full geek, I'm fascinated by quantum computing.
Yeah.
And just super excited to see once it becomes a practical platform, because just like the cloud and big data allowed us to do things in a whole new way. I mean, we have literally more than a decade of precise information about movements because we now have big data. We have both the storage and the ability to operate against that data. And it's cost effective and it's easy to do. I can't imagine what's going to happen when quantum computing unleashes even more compute power on the entire technology world. It's just fascinating. And that whole idea where I was talking about using artificial intelligence to start to predict what people want to do, when they want to do it, and how they want to do it, as far as like tracking drivers, for example, and predicting where they want to be. We can do that today, but that's really just the tip of the iceberg of what we think we could do in the future with a quantum-based computer that would be specialized to solving those kinds of problems. If you combine that with the Internet of Things, where everything is talking, the ability to simulate much more complicated movement models is going to become very possible eventually and very cheaply. More mundane, I think that just the continued march of Internet of Things and the fact that more and more parts of the supply chain are becoming instrumented. So not only do I have a pallet that tells me who it is, the goods on the pallet tell me who they are, the goods on the pallet tell me their condition, the pallet jack broadcasts different attributes about how that pallet was moved. If you start to roll all that up to the truck, to the fuel usage, everything, the more that starts to become common, and I think more importantly, as long as there are industry consortiums that develop, and I'll call it the EDI for IoT, as soon as we can get a common grammar for how all of these devices broadcast their information, not just at the technical level, but actually at the business level, there's really a lot of cool opportunities to get visibility into stuff and how stuff moves through the supply chain.
Well, if you can excuse the pun, what does the road ahead look like for GlobalTranz? Is there anything else you can share with me today about your future plans or anything on the horizon?
Sure. The road ahead looks to a continued modernization and automation through the application of some age-old and some brand-new technologies. And sometimes in an industry that has been kind of stodgy, you can make a lot of progress simply by looking at the world as it is and figuring out, well, what did ERP companies do 10 years ago that still hasn't made its way to the transportation market? So great examples: automated business rules using real business rules engines, using a business process management engine as the foundation to your product. Those are two simple concepts that if you went to pretty much any business technologist, they would acknowledge are useful and in use and really advanced the state of their industry or their business. Transportation systems in general, that's a new concept. And looking at how you build systems that are meant to be configured versus customized, that are meant to use rules versus customization or complex configuration to accomplish and really fit a transportation system into a particular business. The example I gave about proteins, great example. Instead of building a customized system to handle temperature, you have business rules that you can configure that would look for out of tolerance. So that's one case where this entire industry and the technology that supports it is still ripe just for retrofitting some things, let alone quantum computing. So what we've done in the past year and have a long program headed into the future is really continuing to leverage technologies like business rules engines and BPM platforms to extend our products in a much more affordable and maintainable way.
Well, before I let you go, could I just ask that you remind anyone listening that wants to find out more information or keep up to speed with any of the developments that you're working on there, what's the best way of finding you guys online and equally contacting a member of your team if they've got any additional questions?
Sure. The best way to get in touch both with the company and what we're doing with our products, and there's some great use cases and stories out there. You can go to www.globaltranz.com, and there you'll find our blog, information about our products, and different ways you can contact the company.
Fantastic. I love what you're doing here, and I love how you not only transformed your own business through technology, but transforming it for so many others all over the world as well. So a big thank you for taking the time to come on and share that story with me today. Thanks, Greg.
Great. Thank you.
By leveraging technology and its extensive independent agent network, GlobalTranz has emerged as a fast-growing market leader with a customer base of over 1 million product users and 25,000 shippers. And in 2018 alone, Transport Topics named GlobalTranz as a top 10 largest freight brokerage firm in the US. But behind those stats and those figures, none of that would have been possible without embracing technology. And for me, the story that Greg told there was a great example about embracing technological change and the opportunities that that can bring rather than fearing or swimming against the tide of technological change. But if this is your world and you work in this industry and you have a few opinions to share, don't sit there with your earphones on shouting at your device. I actually want to hear your opinions, your insights. And remember, my door is always open. So please, send me a quick email, techblogwriter@outlook.com, Twitter, Instagram and LinkedIn. I'm at Neil C. Hughes. And please, get your voice heard. One of the reasons I created this platform is so everybody can have a voice. So I'd love to hear your insights on that. So a big thank you to Greg for sharing the story of GlobalTranz and his commitment to pioneering technology that is transforming the logistics industry. And last but by no means least, of course, an even bigger thank you to each and every one of you listening today all over the world. You guys rock, and you are the heart and soul of this podcast. So that's it for today. So before I get too emotional, it's time for me to say thanks for listening, and until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thanks for listening to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. Until next time, remember, technology is best when it brings people together.